Hello. Um, haven't really streamed in a while, and I'm, I guess I'm a little bit bored. Don't have a whole lot else to do, so I figured I would hop on and talk a little bit about reports. So, so here we are. Um, Today I was kind of talking with a friend of mine, and they're working on this thing to basically report the material summary from the S2M Center while also reporting a percentage of sheet use, I guess you could call it. A lot of times we report waste and offcuts and stuff. You can see whenever you optimize, there's a little button that you can click that says, the percentage of just a couple of different things. Sorry, I don't actually optimize it that often. But I know that it tells you, I think at least it tells you like how much of your sheets you used, how much offcuts were there, and how much waste there was. So, oh, and by the way, um, I don't have my normal screens or anything here. I'm really just kind of sitting in an hotel room with my laptop, so I don't really have Twitch chat up or anything like that. So sorry if anybody happens to be trying to talk to me. I just can't really see it. I don't have space on my screen. So anyway, so back to my point. I'm not sure that they grabbed the best report to start with. And it was giving them a lot of grief. It was giving me a lot of grief trying to help them. And so I got to thinking about it, and I think that there were a couple of things at play that were really getting in the way of just getting these reports or this one report to work the way we wanted. And so I thought, what the heck, we'll do a little stream. So first of all, one of the things that I will say about Cabinet Vision that's not negative is some of these optimization reports are pretty good. They are, they've got a lot of stuff into them, like a lot of good kind of joins going on to get you really most of the information you could need out of the S2M Center. You just need to find the right report to start with. And you might think that material summary would be a good report to start with if you wanted to know something about how many sheets you're using, but really and truly it's probably not. It's not a great report to use for this. What I think is a much better report to use for this is actually going to be probably any of these nest cut lists or saw cut lists. And just so you know, if you happen to be watching, I am going to be doing this based on a nest cut list. So if you work with a beam saw, the process might be a little bit different, but I'm hoping that it's similar enough that you can adapt what I do here to, your saw cut list if you happen to want something like this. So anyway, I'm not going to copy yet another report, but I will show briefly that there's a part list, a sheet count, and then there's a table that's a part list and job info. So just so you can see that this copied report that I have here is identical. A part list, sheet count, part list, job info. It's the exact same report. I've just already copied it, but that's all I've done. I haven't actually done anything more to this report other than copy and rename it. So if we look here, 3/4 inch Oxford white 4x10 is the name of the material that I have optimized. So already I have a material summary for sheet goods that are going to the CNC. So that's why I don't think that it's a great idea to start with the material summary report at the S2M Center if you want to know how many sheets you're using. Right here is the sheet count. Piece of cake, right? This is only what you've optimized. And so this is perfect. So that's kind of your material summary part of it right there. And then you have this part list, right? And the part list actually conveniently also has sheet count built right into it, material width, and material length. And what PartList also has already built right into it is width and length. But we won't be using these fields for what it's worth because they, actually we might use those ones. Cut width and cut length are what we're actually going to use. I'm sorry. So, but the point is, you already have like everything you could possibly need right here in this report, nice and neat, for you to be able to figure out what percentage of your total square, not square foot, in my friend's case, it was millimeters that they were after because they are a metric shop. But basically, you have everything you need to be able to figure out what the total area is of your sheet goods that are optimized and derive a percentage of part use, I guess. Sorry, I don't really know what to call this. It's kind of a weird thing. What percentage of the sheet was used up by parts only? We'll call it that. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here that is just unnecessary, and it might seem intimidating to go into this SQL tab and start taking stuff out, but as long as you copy the report, don't be afraid to break it, because you can always just copy the original report again and pull the original query and bring it in here. And as you start making progress, I think it's a good idea to hop over to like Notepad++ or Sublime Text Editor or whatever it is you use and save, sort of incremental versions of it. But don't be afraid to play. Like, really, don't be afraid to come in here and rip this stuff apart. First and foremost, okay, if you work for somebody and they already have customized reports, do not go in and just break those. Let me be very clear. Don't just open up a customized report and start playing. That's a very, very bad idea. Please don't do that. But any of these reports up here that have the S2M icon, these are all just stock reports, and you can't even actually edit any of these. If you try to, go to like design report, because I want to edit. This is a system report, and the design cannot be modified. A copy of this report will be created so you can modify the design, right? So already it just creates a copy for you immediately if you're even going to try to go into the design report. Now, I think you can look at report properties, and you might, yeah, nope, you can't even, they've completely locked you out of this as well. So literally you can't even actually mess these up, which is a good thing. So get one of these stock reports, make a copy of it, and start to tinker with it. You'll probably be surprised by what you come up with. So I'm just going to jump in here to this parts table, or parts list link is what this actually is, right? Because there's a bunch of code that we can actually interact with, so it's not an import, it's a link. And I'm just going to kind of look over this and ask myself, all right, if I'm really just trying to print out like a material summary that has a sheet percentage use figure, what don't I need on here? Well, I can tell you there's a lot that I don't need. I don't need any barcodes whatsoever. I don't need an image. I don't really need the part name, but I'll keep it because it makes the process of building the report easier for me. Something about just like being able to identify a row as a part name is easier for me for whatever reason, but you really don't need that even. We don't really need this part index, right? These are the numbers of the parts as they're nested. And since we're just trying to report material area and usage and names and quantities of sheets, again, we don't need this. We don't need pattern numbers because conveniently we already have sheet count here next to this other sheet count link. So anyway, without, I don't want to like just kind of like go over every field here, but realistically, there's a lot of stuff here we don't need. So I'm going to just get in here. I'm going to wipe out the assembly numbers, the room names. I'll leave the job name just in case. I'm going to take out the PNC file, all these barcodes, and I'm just going to work my way through and really try to reduce this thing, right? Look at how big this is. This is a big, kind of almost daunting list of things. to pare down to just a few pieces of information. So make it easy on yourself. Now, when it comes to actually doing that, one of the things that will really help you out if you're still sort of new to learning SQL or SQL or whatever we want to call it is in the select clause, generally speaking, you can look for commas, and in between the commas are the individual fields. Only when you get more complicated queries that are using functions are you going to start to get more commas than just what's in between two fields. But as a very simple example, right, patterns.id, comma, materials.name as material name, comma, patterns.primaryBarcode, comma. And if you switch over here to the data preview, right, we'll see ID, material name, primary barcode, 6-face barcode, and they're just kind of in sequence, right? ID, material name, primary barcode, 6-face barcode. So the neat thing about this is, watch this. I can cut everything there, right? Except for this one thing in my select clause, and leave everything else in here. What do you think is going to happen? No errors, no problems, nothing, right? Because ultimately, select is just trying to tell us what we want to see. And so if you delete too much from it accidentally and you're like, darn it, I needed that field, I don't really remember what it was. Again, as long as you don't start getting down to your from clause and your group by and your order by and start changing that around, you can wipe out like almost all of this stuff. And it's fine. If you need to go get another report, copy it, and look at the select clause again, it's very easy to do that. So again, I'm just trying to encourage, I guess, a little bit of bravery or something. Just get in here and start playing. It's the best way for you to kind of figure this out, right? So patterns.id, I really don't need that. I'm going to keep the material name. I don't care about the barcode, so there that goes. I don't care about the 6-face barcode. I don't need the image. I already said that I like to keep the part name because it kind of helps me out. I don't need part index, pattern number. I do want the cuts width and the cuts length, because these are the actual numbers of the parts that are going to be cut at the sizes they'll be cut at, right? This doesn't take away anything for edge banding or anything. You'll see here this is a width of 23, but the width string is 22.9606. That's because it's the 23 minus the thickness of the edge banding. And so if we use the width string instead of cuts.width, our percentage is going to be wrong. We're going to be inaccurate because we're not cutting 22.9606 wide, we're cutting 23 wide. So we want to keep the cuts.width and the cuts.length fields. Again, I don't really need assembly numbers in here. I don't really need room names. I'll keep the job name because maybe that's the way we identify the material summary, you know? I don't need a PNC file. Don't need a front barcode, back barcode, left or right or top, right? I don't really need comments on these parts because again, I'm just trying to get some like numeric values that are related to the optimization. I don't really need run counter. Now I do need material width because I need to use that to calculate the total square footage of the material. I need the material length. I need the sheet count. Face up, all of this stuff for this kind of report, I really don't need that. So we'll just take out face up, texture face, texture back, face dependent. And again, I don't want the width of the length string or the width or the length. Those are useless things to me. I really don't need them for this report. I don't need the primary program. I don't need to know if parts are rotated. I don't need a 6-face program. So I got part run data cut width, part run data cut length. I'm honestly thinking these values are going to be pretty much the same as cuts.width and cuts.length, except they're inaccurate because it's yay cabinet vision. Best programmers in the world. Sorry. So I'm not even going to keep cut width or cut length here, really, because these are just going to throw my percentage off again. So I will take those out of here as well. And we have a dramatically reduced PartList link, right? It's very simple. It's narrowed down to basically exactly what we care about. I have my material name, my material width and length. If you want to, you can sort of rearrange this stuff a little bit. And put those material width and length values like right after the name. Right, so you got the name, the width, the length, and you got the part name, the part width, the part length. And I don't know if, right, you can move the sheet count over, however you want to do this. But at the end of the day, all you're doing by reorganizing it here is just kind of helping your eyes look at this while you're working through your data query. This order doesn't actually play a role at all. I mean, vertically it does. The way you actually order by plays a role in how your report will report things if you're doing individual parts and stuff. But the actual column order doesn't actually do anything in terms of the design. So anyway, at this point, I'm fairly certain we should be able to go into the report design and kind of get everything we want to sort of create this report the way my friend and I were trying to get it going today. I'd like to show one very, very, very frustrating bug actually in action though, because I can't stress how much this bug in the software has actually caused me grief over the years trying to learn how to use reports. And I am absolutely positive that is causing other people grief too, because it's such a hard thing to understand. I forget about it a lot of times even, and I'm like, what this is, I know my query's right. Why am I getting an error, right? And it has to do with the way the link information doesn't really get updated correctly when you make a change. Sitting here on this links, the link that we have selected and we've been modifying, we can see the updates. But if we click in this PartList table, the query for PartList table is just going to be select wildcard, right, asterisk, from PartList. That's all it's going to say. So it's basically trying to pull all of the information that we have right here down into a table. That way, when we go into the report designer, we can access it. We can manipulate the data and work with it. But check this out. As soon as I click PartList, we're going to have every single field that used to exist in this PartList link up here. Right? All that crap that I deleted doesn't actually update. And so if you happen to have been writing a link and you had some sort of syntax error, and you close your report properties and you reopen them and you go in and you fix your syntax error and try to look at a table that you're building from it, your table's going to keep throwing errors because of the syntax error you had the last time you were in the report properties. It's very, very confusing and frustrating. So if you ever find yourself sitting here wondering, like, why is this not working? I swear this is right. Do yourself a favor, just for the sake of making sure that you're not getting kind of screwed over by a bug. and close the report properties and open them back up. And now when I click on the part list table, I don't have that like snapshot of what the link was before I edited it. I know that I'm working in version 12 here, but this problem persists all the way through the current versions today. This is not something they have fixed. I guess they don't think that, you know, one of the most important parts of the software really needs to be worked on. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not trying to be feisty or anything, but anyway. So at this point, we've kind of done pretty much what I want to do before we get into report design. So close this. Now, when you first get into the design, we're going to see a lot of errors because we've reduced a lot of the number of fields. We've eliminated a lot of fields that used to exist, but the design doesn't know it yet. So immediately, right, we're getting an error. Don't panic, don't worry, it's fine. Just click OK, come in here, read the error messages. Really, you might not understand them all, but just try to read it and try to understand it and try to understand what's going on. Errors occurred while loading the project, just like I mentioned, right? It's trying to look to fields that I've deleted from the query so they're not there. You can edit the errors in the window, formula errors, which is right down here, formula errors. Please note that you cannot print the project before all errors are corrected. That's fine. We're going to correct the errors. So click OK. And you can scroll down this list and there's going to be a lot of errors, but don't worry. It's really not a big deal. You can double click on these errors. You can come in here and see where the problem is. And you can just, frankly, get rid of it. Goodbye, right? And you can just keep kind of coming in here and deleting these different variables until you don't have any more errors. And so I'm just going to kind of, rather than jumping back and forth, I'm just going to kind of click on each one of these variables. And if I have a syntax error because it can't interpret something, okay, that's fine. I'm going to get rid of it. So this is actually kind of interesting. I'm going to delete a few more of these things, but something kind of funny is going on here. I'm actually not getting any of my fields. So let's kind of... Right, I see my part list and my job info here, but all I'm really getting is job info. I'm actually kind of happy I ran into this because I can't ever seem to replicate this happening. And I'm kind of excited about it happening when I'm really thinking about this. So I'm thinking that because I deleted the counter and the ID fields, something about the report is likely breaking. Well, this will be interesting to see how this works. I don't really know what's going to happen. So all right, well, here we go. I'm going to jump back to this original report, just like I said that you can. And we're going to pull two things. We're going to get the counter and we're going to get the ID. We'll pull those things back out. Where is, there it is. And then just so I remember, the run counter is counter, pattern ID is ID. So if I close this, go back down to the one we're working on. Okay, so those actually ended up staying. I wonder if that's why. Just trying to see real quick before I potentially do a bunch of work I don't need to. No, so I'm still not seeing it there. Right, so I copied a bunch of stuff, as you guys saw. Just pasting it to get the fields that I actually care about. Just patterns.id and runInfo.counter. So take the rest of that out of there again. Now we've got the ID and the counter again. Let's see what happens. It's kind of interesting. I have absolutely no idea what's going on. Well, I have it here. Just kind of was thinking, yeah, so I don't know. I have no idea what to say. Right now, all of a sudden, I have a part list over here after I deleted everything. I have no idea. Sorry. I kind of feel, I feel bad that I have no idea what's going on here. Welcome to Cabinet Vision. Something is wrong with my report numbering. Something is wrong with my database. I think, or was it just on the wrong report? All right, material length is fine. I had that, but okay, it is just width and length, so I don't know. I might just be mixing myself up a little bit, but the interesting thing was that once I deleted everything from that report, I feel like the part list showed up. I can't wait to watch the video again and see at what point that part list just popped up, because I genuinely can't even remember seeing it happen. That's interesting. Anyway, all right. So I'm just gonna carry on with clearing out these errors. Sorry, it probably feels like I'm all over the place here. Right, just kind of keep clicking our way in. Again, a lot of these things, because of what we're doing, we really don't need. Like, just delete this whole thing, right? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, whatever. All right, no more errors. So we have just a report container here, right? You can double click on it and select a table. And we want to bring our PartList table in. And really the values that we want to concern ourselves with are the values that are going to tell us, total area of a sheet and total area of parts, really. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick a few of these things. And while I'm streaming today, I'm going to talk a little bit about width display, length display, because Sensei Tristan figured out what the heck the freaking problem is with it and why it bugs out when you try to use length display, and it just repeats the same thing over and over. I might have talked about this in a different video already, I'm not sure, but it's worth mentioning again. So sorry. Just kind of selecting them in the order that I think I want to work with them in. Need the sheet count, but it doesn't really need to be on every single row. All right, so I'm gonna rotate this around to landscape so that that was not a good idea, I guess. All right, I wasn't really planning on going into anything like this, but real quick, your report container is going to have some sizes. Typically speaking, I recommend writing these out in like unit from S2M. But I don't want to take too long with this video. This is already going to go a pretty long while. I'm going to skip that conversation. Sorry. Basically, it's a good idea to try to set these things up parametrically. Set your containers up parametrically sized, referencing the different fields that you can find under here we are. So under LL device page and printable area, you've got these variables that are related to the paper size that you're working on. Think of it just like when you parametrically size like a shelf to a cabinet's interior or something like that, right? You're telling the length of the shelf to be the cabinet's cases dx, or whatever it is, right? you're just parametrically sizing it. That's all this stuff in here is as well. It's really the same sort of concept. So I'll just briefly kind of go over this. So there's a printable area, and then there's like a page size, right? And so LL device page size CX is the X size of the paper. CY would be the DY of the paper, if you want to think of it that way. But then the printable area has not only a size, but offsets from the actual page size. So if we went ll.device, I think this is case sensitive. Right, so that's going to be whatever the offset value is according to like just your page setup, your printer, all of that stuff. And so you can take this a little bit further and basically copy this. I know I said I was going to do this, but this is just the weird nitpicky things, right? We've been on Discord the past few days. We all had an interesting conversation about the things that we feel compelled to do as Cabin Vision users that we understand don't really add value the way we wish it did. This is one of those things, sorry. So the width, right, instead of the printable area offset, this will be the printable area size, CX. And you'll see over here, this should kind of snap over to the area where the little slashes are. Maybe a little bit more. No, it just looks like more when it's selected, but it's actually right there at that line. And then last but not least, right, the height is just going to be the same thing here, but instead of CX, it's CY. So now it's sort of parametrically sized to the report container is parametrically sized to the page that it's going to print on. And then the table by default is already basically just exactly the size of the report container, unless you specifically go in and start like really tinkering with it and trying to break it, which I wouldn't really recommend that. But anyway, I'll try to zoom in here a little bit on this. Give this a little more space. We don't really need all of that stuff. So I try really hard to kind of keep these lines at just a single row instead of double high, like the words wrapping. So I'm just going to kind of adjust this stuff a little bit. But realistically, so this is what I want to talk about with length and length display, right? This is interesting that this is 0.47. Anyway, in order for the length display to properly populate per part, you must have length reporting. Now, obviously, you don't want to have both of those values reporting because that's really just confusing. So this is what I recommend doing for that. Take your material length all the way down to the bottom. Oops, sorry. Yeah, might as well do it with that too, because we don't need the material length and length display both, right? So take the actual length values that exist that you've pulled and stuff them all down at the very, very bottom here, because we don't want to see these duplicate things. And then what you can do from here is, why did that not? Oh, right, because I didn't change the header line, I just changed the data, sorry. Right, width, length, width, length, width, length, width, length. And I moved the display values down because I don't want it to say width display. I want it to say width or length, or material width or material length, right? And again, these don't actually have any correlation with the data that's being displayed down here. It's literally just what you're seeing up top. So now we've got material name, material width, length, part name, width, length, and then we've got all these display values that we don't care about. So how about you guys just go over there, right? Shove them all the way off. And now when you run your report, which I'll just jump out and show you real quick. I'm going to rename this real quick so it pops up at the top of my list because I hate waiting for the reports to load. It's already bad enough that I have to click off on my required one here. Right. Now you can see that each of these things is reporting, where if I had actually left any of the width values or the length values off of this report, none of these would actually be displaying on the different, like accurately, I guess is what I should say, right? Every single one of this column would say 28.4688, and every one of this column would say 23. Got a 23-inch wide drawer stretcher. That's not a drawer stretcher, that's a fixed shelf. So obviously that's not what we want. This, however, is pretty much what we want to start with. It's 1176. I'm not really sure what that is. It's some kind of total that's happening. It's the sum of the material widths. I'm not really sure why. Anyway, so I don't think I care about a footer. So this is where we need to really kind of organize this thing in such a way that we can sum up the area of the parts along with the area of the material. Now, fortunately, for the area of the material, we don't even need to do that in the table. Like, that can just be a user variable. It's super easy. Because if you recall, when we were pulling our data in earlier, the sheet count value was 3 on every single record, because every single record being reported knows that, I guess. It was just displayed on it, right? So what we can do is we can call this PartList.sheet count. Okay, well that's kind of interesting, huh? Maybe I had a space in front or something like that. I don't know, but right, 3. So that's like an integer value already, which makes it pretty easy for us. So we want PartList.sheetCount times PartList.material, not length, length display, times PartList.material width display. So what's going on here, right? What's going on here is that the length display and the width display values are actually strings. So think of them as like words instead of numbers, and you can't really multiply words together in any sensible way. So what you need to do is convert these strings to numbers, and there's a couple of different ways you could do this, but I'm going to go the simple way, which is val right. So now we've got sheet count, which was 3, times the material length display times the material width display. And this gives us square inches. If we wanted square feet, divided by 144, but we don't want square feet, we want square inches because we don't measure our parts in feet. We measure them in inches. So the sheet area variable is done, right? That is 17,787 inches of area across 3 sheets of 4x10 material. So how do we get the area of the parts to sum up? Well, if you add another field in the table that is a calculated field that multiplies the width times the length of the part, we should, in the group footer, be able to sum that up. We might even be able to use the sum variables to sum it up. We could probably use collection variables to sum it up, but I have no idea how to use those, so I'm not going to. So let's get another field in here. I'm going to reduce this down to like, I don't know, 63. And then this one we'll do at 63 also, which is half of what it was before. And then for the header line, I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste. And same thing. Oops, did I click yes? Oh, no, that's not right. I didn't copy paste the right thing. Sorry, I want length. All right, so we got another field here. We don't actually want it to be called length. We're going to call this part area. I like to use single quotes in here. Do what you want. They make them double quotes by default. I don't really know why. Single quotes seem to work a bit better for me, but that doesn't really matter. So here again, we're going to go val PartList length display times val and that is the area of that individual part. So how do we get this to sum up at the bottom? Well, there are a couple of ways to do that, and I'm pretty sure we can do it right here under the sum variables. We'll give it a shot. So sum variables are something I have finally started to learn a little bit about. I understand a little bit about how to use them, but I'm still not really great with them. But this is going to be the sum that we want to sum up, if you will, right? So at sum part area is the name of the variable, and this is the value that it's going to capture every record that gets printed. So every record that runs, if these values both exist and there's no syntax errors, it's going to keep summing that value up, I believe, nearly positive. So what we want to do here is we need to change the structure of this. This can't be a data line anymore because we need a group footer. Geez, I might actually be giving really bad advice here, but what I know is that if we just copy the data line to the group header, and leave the header line as is so that it's still reporting all of this stuff, but then suppress the data line, basically. Hide it for now. And I don't want to see it in the designer either because it's just going to confuse me. So now we've got a group header. And what are we going to group over? What we're trying to find out again is, what if you have optimized several different materials? If you've done, or even just like 2 or 3, you need to get these values that we're working towards per material. And so that's what we want to group by. So we've got a group that is PartList material name. That seems like a really great thing to group by to me. So if we just copy that, and then up here in the actual line definition of the group header, we paste it. Now we know that these are going to group by the PartList material name. Now, group sums. So the selected sum variables are reset each time the group line is printed. Right? So we built a sum variable, and that sum variable was part width times part length to give us a part area. We want to know total part area per material. So this is perfect. We want the sum variables that we're collecting here to reset whenever the group line is printed. So when the material name changes and we're reporting a different group of data, that's when the group sum is going to say, okay, I'm done. You don't need the values I've been counting so far. Wonderful, right? And it's going to ditch all of that, and it's going to start at 0 again. So that the next part that shows up that's made from the next material will start summing again from 0. That way, again, each one of your materials is going to have its own separate summed up total part area. So you just click this one here, and that's what it's going to group by. And so how do you actually get that value to show up? If you try to put it in the group footer, all you're going to get is the last group of sums that were calculated. You can't put it in the footer. You have to put it in the group footer. So I don't want to build this off of any line definitions. I'm just going to do an empty line definition. And I am going to paste my group by thing, my group by value that we defined in the group header. And same as in the group header, we're going to group that, right? So the selected sum variables are reset each time the group line is printed. So I don't think I'm overdoing this. I'm pretty sure you need to have the group sums in both the group header and the group footer, but we'll see. I don't do this very often, but I can tell you for sure this is definitely how this is intended to work, so that the sums, the sum variable will reset each time the group footer is printed. So we need something to show up here. So we'll put a column in here that is total part area. And we'll do another column here that is sum parts area. And so I'm going to put one more little just blank line here. I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to set blank optimization to no so that it doesn't just delete the line. Probably doesn't really matter, but right about there. It's almost perfect. All right, so now we've got the sum part area appearing right here. So if I've done this right, what should happen is we're going to get a bunch of lines printing out all of the part names, right? And we would still want to break this up if we wanted to just say at the top of the report, say that there are 3 sheets of Oxford White 4x10, and I'll show you how to do that. But basically at this point, we should be getting total part area should be getting reported. We still don't have total sheet good area showing up here, but one thing at a time, right? Well, that didn't work out, did it? I wonder why. I wonder if my report is just still kind of like screwed up. Because it didn't look like it printed even a single line. I feel like I'm trolling you guys. I'm gonna think about this for a second. I got these parts reporting. Well, I guess maybe I should have practiced this before I decided to start streaming and recording it. Oh, duh. So I might have given you guys bad advice with that. I'm betting it's all going to show up now. Might even double up. Let's see. No, it's not doubling up. It's showing. Well, either way, it's kind of been a while since I've done this, but I'm sort of surprised that I think there's something that I'm misunderstanding. I'm gonna jump back into the report real quick. So let's always show. Very peculiar. I still think my report is messed up or something like that, because I feel like when I see doubled up lines like this in here, I would think that, well, anyway, maybe it's been a while since I've kind of built a report from scratch, and I'm a little bit mixed up about this, but hopefully you're still getting something out of this. So anyway, at this point, we are getting the part areas reporting, and that's right. So this is what I did wrong. Just for whatever reason, I put all my data in here, and that is not really what I need to do. Oops. It really needs to just be the header, right? And the header needs to go away. This should be what I was thinking. All right, much better. This is exactly what I was expecting. We're a little mixed up there before. So group header, all of the parts in the group, total part area. I'm not going to tally this up. I'm pretty confident this is right, this value here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to introduce another material. Because we need to verify that our grouping is working as expected. Go little Nyan cat. All right, so we're gonna nest it all again. We've got two different materials here. We should see not one great big number for both, but we should see the same number for both because these are identical rooms. It's just a copy. So let's see. $11,068.28. 11,068.28. So we've got this number that's tallying up per material exactly like we want. And so at this point, if we want to figure what the actual percentage of the total sheet use is, we don't have a whole lot more to do here because we've already got this user variable that we created before, sheet area, right? So at sheet area, and to figure out the percentage of the sheet that the parts take up, all we need to do is jump back in here, back to the group footer, and we can do another line definition. And I'll just go off of the group footer. So what we're going to do here is sum part area divided by at sheet area. And then times 100 so that it is in the form of a percentage plus we'll convert this into a string. 2 decimal precision. So that it looks like 0.00%, or when it's populated, it should be so there we have it. 62.23% of the nest seems to be used by parts. We can check this by going back and re-optimizing. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a tough time understanding what exactly this is saying, but hmm. What are you doing, cabinet version? That report didn't even really make sense to me. I'm gonna be completely honest. This is not making any sense to me at all. These are really strange numbers that we're seeing here, but as we can see, it's taking just barely 3 sheets for both of these materials. A different amount though. It just didn't optimize the same, even though it's essentially identical. Oh, but anyway, that is essentially how you would go about doing that. And it's getting a little bit late, so I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna do a little more research on this, and if it turns out that any of my math or anything was wrong, I will correct it and kind of append that to the end of this video when I upload to YouTube. So, thank you for joining me for my impromptu stream, and I will see you guys next time.